I have two questions to the Minister, Madam Acting Deputy President. Thank you. The first question is, who else will get immunity? And the second question is, what additional immunities will be provided? Minister, in regard to the first question as to who else will get immunity under this bill that currently doesn't get immunity, could you please name organisations that could be granted immunity under this bill that do not currently receive immunity? I note that the explanatory memorandum mentions the Framework Agreement for Joint Armament Cooperation, OCCAR. Who else does the government have in mind? Because it seems a major bill for one minor agreement. Would, for example, the World Economic Forum meet the criteria for immunity? Would Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunisation, meet the criteria? It's a partly private organisation and partly public. Does this bill extend record protections to the existing organisations? I'll use, for example, the United Nations as an example. Or do they have inviolability for their records of operations in Australia already? Under the existing legislation, are all United Nations agencies, such as the World Health Organization, protected by the overarching listing of the United Nations as an immune organisation? Does this bill protect the World Health Organization records in respect of directions and actions they took during COVID from inquiry, including as Senate inquiry or Royal Commission? Is that what's going on with this bill?
Minister.
Thanks for the question, Senator Roberts. I think the short way of answering your question is to say that international organisations are organisations that are formed as a consequence of treaty making. And so that is the broad test at the heart of the existing legislation, and it's not proposed to change that. The specific change that is being made here is simply to allow for, relevant to your question, is simply to allow for organisations to be recognised where Australia is not a member. I'm advised by the department that the World Economic Forum is not an organisation that would be considered relevant. I don't, and they have sought to clarify whether Gavi would be, but we'll come back to you if we can have more information on that. I note they confirm that it is not. Gavi would not be included.
Senator, please wait for the call. Senator Roberts.
Thank you. Specifically, does this bill protect the World Health Organization records in respect of directions and actions they took during the COVID management response from inquiry, including as Senate inquiry or a Royal Commission?
Minister.
This bill doesn't change the protections that would be applicable to the World Health Organization.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Minister. My second question goes to what additional powers or additional immunities are offered. Will a designation, for example, of a new body be a disallowable instrument? Will there be any form of inquiry, public consultation or committee process before the Minister grants immunity to some international organisation we have no control over? What if a person from an organisation commits a summary offence in Australia? Are they covered by immunity? What if a person commits an indictable offence? Do they have immunity? Will indemnity be given to a commercial operation which, according to this bill, may be excused from taxation? Exemption from taxation suggests they are liable for taxation. Under what circumstance would an exemption apply? Inviolability of records may mean an organisation can be given immunity, comes over here and then does something controversial. In that situation, can the Senate examine the organisation under oath in a Senate inquiry and compel testimony before the provision of record, including the provision of records?
Minister.
Thanks, Senator Roberts. I think you asked essentially two questions, the first of which is about the opportunities for the Senate to scrutinise decisions taken under the legislation, should it pass, and the second goes to what privileges or immunities might be available to organisations. In relation to scrutiny, the allocation of privileges and immunities would be done by a disallowable instrument made in the Senate, and so the ordinary arrangements for the Senate would apply in this regard. I understand that when the committee considered this. This is one of the features that senators considered in their discussion, and it's reflected in the report that was provided by the committee on this bill. In terms of the specific privileges and immunities that are presently available under the legislation, I can say two things. The first is that this bill doesn't change those at all. So it doesn't seek to change the privileges or immunities that would be made available to an eligible organisation. But to provide some clarity for you, I will set out what is presently available, noting that this bill makes no change to that. Privileges and immunities are legal protections afforded to foreign missions, international organisations and their representatives. The privileges and immunities contained in the Act include immunity from jurisdiction, inviolability of premises and archives, currency and fiscal privileges, and the absence of censorship of official correspondence and communications. As I indicated, the bill will not change the privileges and immunities available under the Act.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your answer, Minister. Just one clarification. I asked, will indemnity be given to a commercial operation which, according to this bill, may be excused from taxation? Exemption from taxation suggests they're liable for taxation, so under what circumstance would an exemption apply?
Minister.
The bill contemplates only the capacity, well, the present legislation provides for privileges and immunities to be allocated to international organisations. I've already provided some indication of the definition of an international organisation. It's not proposed to change that in the legislation before the Senate.